From everything I've heard from this Gorillaz record, it's a cool record. I've got to say, though, it's fair to say that this is the most different sounding Gorillaz record we've heard yet, right?
I don't know if there is a Gorilla sound. So, I mean, by very definition, it changes utterly every time we put a record out because it's totally new people.
That's true.
I mean, the only consistent thing, literally, from the first record to this one is me. Everything else has changed. All the people who work behind the scenes have changed every record. All the artists changed. Well, no, that's not true, actually. Myself and De La Soul are the only consistent things that have travelled through the 5 albums.
I guess it's that mood that you bring every time. That's the consistent sound for me. It is.
Yeah. Yes, I suppose so. My chords, my minor chords, maybe.
I guess it's this one, though, against everything, all the other records, this one almost seems more in line with pop music as a whole. And I don't know if I want to say contemporary pop, but there is something very contemporary about it as opposed to the other ones.
Well, that's good. I mean, I'm really delighted if I've managed to do that because, I mean, that is literally a fluke at my age. That's not... You can't really manufacture that. It's just either somehow you fall in with the zeitgeist or not. Do you know what I mean? It's
right.
Not,
well, I've heard you talk about this being a club record.
Yeah, I think so. I wanted to make an upbeat. I wanted to use my kind of experience to make a club record, and I wanted a club record that had a narrative arc, so that you could put it on and feel like you've entered a kind of a movie of types.
Which is two things that don't play together a lot of times. Club records and storyline. Pop opera.
Pop opera. Well, I've been messing about with various forms of opera for a long time as well, but not on record.
What is the storyline this time around?
Well, it's sort of it takes place in a non-linear way, sort of in a city, maybe New York, but a kind of a generic city on post a traumatic kind of shift in what people believe in and how people see themselves and see the people around them in the near future. And I mean, when you start a record like I did at the beginning of last year, I suppose I was kind of sort of, I entered a dark fantasy where someone like Donald Trump ran for president and became president. Mm-hmm. And kind of strangely, as the sort of the closer I got to finishing the record, the closer that dark fantasy became reality. But it's not about Donald Trump. He's just a manifestation of that malign kind of sort of not quantum, but that malign sort of shift in how we feel about our surroundings and the people that we exist closely with, And it's kind of, I wanted to make a record where people were out that night drinking and talking about communicating with each other and the kind of that sense of uneasiness, but that sort of sense of exhilaration, because we all get kind of sort of slightly, I don't know, our adrenaline is affected regularly by the sort of crazy information loops that are projected out, and the sort of the mistruths that get propagated, and the conversation, the madness of social media. And so, yeah, all of those sort of things were in my head all the time, and the conversations I had with all the artists that we collaborated with were kind of sort of, initiated by that. Imagine a night in the near future when you're out and something has happened that you never thought was possible. How would you feel about it?
And how do you deal with it with all the people around you?
How do you deal with it exactly?
Yeah.
How do you deal with it exactly? So that was it, but that's a loose narrative. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But that was definitely a big kind of sort of starting point for every conversation with every artist. I mean, at the beginning, when I was working with them, at the beginning, they were going, "Oh yeah, well, obviously that's never going to happen," and then I sort of got more and more kind of sort of emails at the end of the year going, oh shit, it did happen.
Well, that's what I'm finding is a really interesting time, because a lot of artists that I'm talking to right now who've especially written, similar themes and everything, it all started out as a what if, because every album that's releasing now was probably written at the beginning of the year. And so what wasn't it not exactly a protest song?
Yeah, it's kind of straight. That is interesting. And I think obviously there's going to be a whole swathe of music that will come out sort of later this year from people who are reacting to it actually happening. I was reacting to the idea of it happening, the sense, the sort of the energy indefinable at first, but became more and more kind of sort of loud and became deafening and then became madness.
I mean, I can't help thinking of your title "Demon Days" suddenly.
Yes, no. Well, I mean, there's a line. I mean, we sang that tune on Friday at our gig. It was the last tune we did, and there's a line in the chorus that goes, "When lies become reality, we drug ourselves with we numb ourselves with drugs and TV." And I mean, it's that was written 12 years ago.
Yeah.
That could fit into the narrative now perfectly.
All right. Unfortunately,
yeah. No, I've never. But I feel like you have to kind of face these things, to make popular music that's negative in a sense, or kind of sort of, deals with the sort of darker side of stuff. It's quite a challenge because unfortunately most pop music is very saccharine and very sort of manufactured,
sure,
and very very programmable because. A disc jockey on a kind of sort of a feel good, no pun intended, radio station in I don't know, wherever. I'm going to pick the middle of America just because it needs that's right place. They don't, they're not going to play a song that goes, "And that was Demon Days." You know what I mean? They're just not, because it's like, where does that take their narrative in the middle of a sunny day in Texas? So it's quite difficult. It's quite a challenge.
Pulled it off. I mean,
that was I killed myself. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to happen. That was Your Love's So Great. But I'm being very generalised, but you know what I mean.
I do. Yeah.
It's quite hard to fit in with that sort of programmable music, which inevitably becomes the thing that the majority of people who don't necessarily search out other alternate kind of sort of realities. That's all they've got. That's all they're given, and that's what we're fighting always. That sort of giving people a sort of more breadth of experience through music, through art, through information. And not allowing the kind of the malign forces of commercialism and misinformation to control everything.
And I guess for good reason, it seems like this has been on your mind for a while, and mine as well, because I don't know. I think
it's on any intelligent person's mind.
Sure, yeah.
How can it not be? It's kind of this. We've been force-fed lies
for a while.
Yeah, and I mean the whole fucking global warming is not happening thing is that's really tragic. That.
And that's what we're hearing this morning about him, being true to his threat about rolling back all the EPA bits and
has the man actually travelled around the world? Has he actually seen the world? No, he hasn't. He's seen, essentially his gilded penthouse, his gilded golf course, and things of that ilk.
Yeah.
He hasn't kind of camped out in the Brazilian rainforest. He hasn't walked through the back streets of Kinshasa. He hasn't. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
His
the Ivory Tower.
The Ivory Tower, exactly.
Is it fair to draw a line, or maybe even a continuation from where you left off on Everyday Robots, and especially the themes there? Because that feels like this is the next step of that, especially, playing two sides of the coin of Everyday Robots and Humanz.
Yeah, I suppose that they're connected, but it's still that both things are me. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think these are the ways that we communicate with each other now. So music kind of and songwriting for me has to kind of go through that filter.
I think though, I expect these two records will play nice together. And again, in the most unfortunate of ways. But as far as arts,
yeah,
you know,
I'm sorry to be on such a bummer, but at least this time I've made it sound a bit more like a party.
it really is. And I want to bring up one of the first singles too, because "We Got the Power" is a great
That's
anthemic
positive.
song,
That is positive.
right? And especially following, I guess, "Hallelujah Money," because for that to be the first sounds of the new Gorillaz and giving us a taste.
That was no one in their right mind sort of puts out the last song on a record as the first thing, but it was honestly written for the imaginary inauguration, so we had to sort of briefly air it on that day because that's what it was written for. It imagined that moment.
I mean, it would have been a missed opportunity otherwise.
It would have been a missed opportunity, but I mean, I was aware that we were, confusing something, but it's okay now. Hopefully, everyone now understands that it is a part of the party record I said it was going to be,
right,
and not a sort of free fall waltz time with a kind of the ghost of Paul Robeson.
Party for the end of the world. That's the old line, right? Yeah. And I heard you got the special guest on it with I'm losing the name now, Jenny Beth, and I guess Noel Gallagher is on it as well. I guess I just read.
Dram.
Right.
And Dram.
I mean, you had to know, by the way,
on that.
You were going to blow up the internet once you announced that Noel was on the record as well. So, but there's something.
He's my mate, and it was kind of it was not easy to find a place for him on this record, for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But that tune, I think personally for the two of us, it was nice to sing that line, and it meant something.
Right. And I guess I would love to ask the very obvious question. We've got the power to what?
Be loving each other no matter what happens. In the sense of we've got the power to sort of see through all of the bullshit and just treat each other like human beings, whoever we are, wherever we are. And
it's such a difficult idea right now for the division.
It seems to be, but it sort of it's the only way we're gonna ever sort of march in the same direction.
God, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, we're not going to do it any other way, are we?
Yeah. I mean, that's the way it's always worked.
It's not going to happen if we allow religion to kind of sort of dictate to us. It's not going to happen if we allow kind of commercial concerns to dictate to us. It's only going to happen if we're sort of humanists.
Of all of the socially reflective songs coming out, it has been nice to see the ones that are still kind of eyeing the whole game, but putting it in a positive light. To try to bring.
Well,
it
that's
together.
why I put it at the end of the album, because it really didn't fit anywhere else, and in a way, it's a bit of the cuckoo in the nest, that one. Mm-hmm.
Does it?
But I kind of see it in my kind of sort of dark, twisted fantasy about yet another end of the world scenario. It's the title music at the end where at least you don't leave the cinema kind of thinking that all hope is lost.
It's the nice bow on it.
It's my Hollywood ending, basically.
That's nice. Well, sometimes we need the Hollywood ending. It's true.
Yeah, we do. I like a Hollywood ending.
Do you I don't know what you guys were going for specifically on the music for that one, but do you sense the nostalgia in the music? There's something about that song that actually takes me back to, in your early days a little bit, and what was happening in the Brit scene at that point.
I mean, at one point that song had Graham Coxon, Noel Gallagher, and myself.
Oh, well, there we go.
It was a testosterone-fueled kind of sort of homage to the glory days of Britpop. Guitars and everything, but it didn't fit on the record at all, and I was going to not even put it on the record. I just thought, well, maybe I'll do this at some other point in the future, but because it's not working, and then, I realised that I should persevere with it, so I just stripped it down and took out all the rock elements to it, and made it purely electronic, and then, sort of, because there's so many songs on the album which are kind of conversations between men and women, I thought, let's find someone with a kind of sort of, with their own power and their own sort of sense and vision of the world, and make it something for everyone. So literally, we've got the power. men and women. We've all got that to work together.
Yeah, I love it, and it does. I mean, it does that nice thing. There is something, reminiscent about the whole thing, but it sounds very current. And I will use that silly word again, contemporary.
And also, if people in America are going to be able to say we've got the power in French.
Okay, there you are, teaching us. We don't want to learn other languages.
Well, positive and educational.
Speak American, Damon.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for talking today. I cannot wait to hear the rest of this record and everything this year. So,
cheers, man. Thanks for your time.
You too. We'll see you around. Bye.
Bye-bye.